Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with a daily technical update. Today is Friday, 27th of September. And we'll have a look at super microcomputer that got beaten down yesterday, continuing its downtrend since its peak above 1200 here back earlier this year. It's just been almost one downtrend ever since, and it's very close to drop below 400. It actually dipped below yesterday, closed just above. There's some support here around 358. But if we are looking at the weekly chart, we can see, well, it is a bubble that has bursted. And the key rule, one of the main rules for when a bubble bursts is that it gets back to at least the first larger correction before the blowout phase. And we are very close to that, 357. There's some support, but it could drop all the way down to around 228, which is the lower part of the consolidation area. And here, back here, this is the base that sometimes also drop all the way back to that. But let's see when we get to that. But 228, 230 in this area could drop to that. However, if it breaks back above the peak from yesterday at 485, well, then we could see a little bit of a short-term rally, but there's no sign of doing that. On the main indices, S&P 500, and let's zoom in on that one here on the daily chart. Spiked a little bit higher, reached the 138.2 projection, and then some, but close to more or less right on it. There's still room up to 5,800, which is the 161.8 projection of this correction here, 5,800 and a change. Still no divergence on the RSI, so it's supporting higher levels, but we could see a little bit of a correction short term. On the Nasdaq 100, also spiked higher yesterday, actually opened higher yesterday, but failed to close above 20,211, which is this little gap area, the upper part of the gap area. It really needs to close above that. I think it will happen eventually, because we have the RSI still above 60 threshold. There's no divergence indicating we are likely to see higher levels, but I think it will be a little bit of a struggle. We have the 55 moving average kind of dragging on. It's a little bit holding it back a little bit, despite having 100 and 200 rising. So keep an eye on that. It really needs to close above at 20,211 and preferably also above yesterday's peak at 20,273. EUROSTOXX 50 had a good day yesterday. If we can get it to update, right there we are. Very good day yesterday. Strong move, well above 5,000. No resistance, no strong resistance until previous peaks. There is a little bit, of course, we can take this one and move up here. We are just below, as we can see here, 5,040, 50 level, testing it for now, but we are in a bullish trend, and so a positive sentiment indicating we're likely to see higher levels on the EUROSTOXX 50. Whether it will make a new all-time high is still up in the air, but at least it has broken above this falling trend line and is pushing to take out these peaks here, and there will be another one up here. We can just add another one just to give an indication what's going on around these levels here, so around 5,077. And if we're looking very quickly at the EU50 CFD, well, same picture really. You can see it's up there with some of the previous peaks. And this is what you can do. You can see, well, there are some minor resistance levels on the peaks here, but they are not that strong at the moment. And also with the bullish sentiment or positive sentiment on the RSI, we are likely to push higher. DAX, a new all-time high yesterday, and also again today. Well, there will be a new all-time high close. Remains to be seen. We have divergence on the RSI. However, we have the RSI breaking and closed above the upper falling trend line here. So there is potential higher. I do believe we maybe could see a little bit of a correction after this, but there is potential up to 19,500 after breaking above and closing above the falling trend line. If it takes out the peak here back from on the RSI back from earlier this month, well, 69.32, well, then there's much higher levels in the cards, but we're not right there yet. The Germany 40 CFD did has pushed higher, also reached smack on the 138.2 projection at 19,298. I think we could see a little bit of correction here. We can see there might be a little bit of divergence. AEX Amsterdam, well, let's zoom in a little bit here so we can see what's actually going on. It closed above 909 yesterday and could follow through later today or going into next week. However, we do have the RSI still being below 60 threshold, so it's dragging a little bit of it back, and also the 55 moving out, you can see it's declining there. So a little bit of drag on it. But let's see if we can get up to the 927 key resistance here. We are in a short-term bullish corrective trend, but if it drops back below 908, well, then expect a downtrend to resume. On the CAC index, excuse me, on the CAC index, very strong move yesterday, closed above 77.25, RSI back above 60 threshold, meaning we are now in a positive sentiment supporting further upside potential to 7,900. The Swiss market failed to close above 12,250, but it is in a short-term corrective bullish trend, but we would like to see the RSI to close back above 60 threshold for further upside potential. If SMI closes above 12,250, I think we will also see the RSI closing above 60 threshold, meaning we are then supporting a further bullish upside for SMI. Euro dollar can't really make its mind up. It's just whipsawing around 111.50 around these levels here. A bearish breakout of the 110.80 could see it selling down to a 110 key support, close above 112. Expect higher levels, and we talked about it so many times what's really going on here after the bullish breakout of this triangle-like pattern here. It can't really get its mojo back together. There's no divergence on the RSI on the weekly chart, so there should still be room up to 112.75 and even higher, but it really needs to close above 112. The euro sterling, I think it seems to resuming downtrend and could push lower if it takes out, which I believe it will. And let's just remove this one. We are in a bearish trend, and there's potential lower to 82.50, 82.35. We can see here on the weekly chart. Let's zoom out a little bit. We can see 82.30 is the next key support area, a very strong support area. Then we are back to the lows of 2022. Cable. Sterling dollar, well, could be ripe for a little bit of a correction, at least down to 132.80, maybe even down to around 132 and a little bit lower to the 61.8 retracement. Oh, that one is misplaced, sorry about that, has to be there. 130.167 around this level could be seen, but there's some strong support there. And also on the medium term, we can still see we are in a bullish trend. There's no divergence on the RSI. There is potential medium term, meaning medium term, a few weeks up to maybe 1 or 2 months, potential to 136.75. Yen pairs got hammered yesterday after spiking higher in early session. Well, it's actually spiked this morning and got hammered in early session, and dollar yen is no exception, of course. Very close to the 147.21 key resistance, spiked above the 786 retracement, and as we can see here, currently testing minor support here at 142.89. Another break below. Well, expect a downtrend to resume. We already have the RSI still in a bearish or negative sentiment. If it breaks below and close below 40 threshold here, well, then expect downtrend to resume with a push down to possibly 138. On the euro yen, more or less the same picture really. Spiked just above 162.90, resistance almost all up to 164 before it got hit hard this morning, and I think we'll see a push down to the 61.8 retracement, 158.33. could then bounce a little bit, but key is also that 60 threshold was not broken on the RSI, meaning we are still in negative sentiment, and I think we will resume downtrend, pushing it also below the 61.8 retracement, possibly all the way down to 155 going into next week. However, if it takes out the peak today, well, then expect a break of 164. Aussie yen. Aussie yen spiked also, tested yesterday the 99.90 resistance, spiked above it this early morning in Asian session, and now it seems to resuming downtrend. The interesting thing here is that the RSI is actually above 60 threshold. Yeah, I know it dipped just below right now, but it actually did close above yesterday. So the indicators are not really agreeing here, but because we can see the moving averages are declining, so they kind of telling, well, the underlying trend is actually bearish, and this is just a correction. So let's see here, if it can close above 99.91. And also take out the peak from early this morning at 100.73. Well, then we could see a push up to 102.5, maybe higher. But I think we will see it sliding back lower, and if it slides back below this cloud area here, then I think we will see the downtrend to resume. If you also add Fibonacci to just give us an idea, we're almost back down to the 38.2, which is not much, but 61.8 retracement at 96.31 could be reached. On the sterling yen, also more or less the same picture as Aussie yen. It actually did close above its key resistance at 103.50, spiked up to the 100 moving average. So next couple of days could be really key. Who will win here? The RSI is in a positive sentiment, but that could also, kind of being a false break. If it slides back below the 61.8 retracement at 188.40, well, then the RSI could also just drop back below 40, and then we are back in a bearish sentiment and bearish trend. But if it can crawl back above the cloud area, which is currently at what is it? It is at 194.12, and of course above the 193.50. Well, the uptrend could resume towards 200. Aussie dollar also dancing around just below the 69 and down to 68 and a change, 68.15. If it breaks below that, well, expect a push down, a correction down to 61.8 at 67.30. However, we are in a bullish trend, but it really needs to take out 69 and break. And we have talked about it several days now. We can see here on the weekly why it is so important, a key level. If it having another go, then I think we'll be looking at a 70 level for Aussie dollar and possibly higher. Dollar Canada, well, the correction is still in play, and I think it will reach the 38.2 retracement and 135. Could retrace a little bit higher, to be honest. It is not unlikely, maybe even up to 135.60. I'm not so sure about that. However, if it takes out 134.40, once again, the expected downtrend to resume down to 133.50, 60 level. The Swiss franc currently testing, or this morning testing, 94 once again, just dipping at 1 cent or two below. Well, actually smack on it. If it really takes it out, well, then we are looking at 93, possibly 92.50, and it is 95 to the upside that needs to be broken. Dollar Swiss still caught in this range bound between 85.40 and 84. And finally, the dollar index, similar to euro dollar, can't really make its mind up. We are in a bearish trend, but it is showing exhaustion with the RSI divergence, but it needs to break above the upper rising trend line and to be confirmed by 101.18 breaker above that level for a push to 101.86. Otherwise, we are still in a bearish trend. Another all-time high yesterday in gold. The uptrend is strong. There's no divergence on the RSI as we can see here. So I can move that over there. You can see higher levels here on the RSI. It is a little bit stressed, but I think we will see it touching 2700. Also given that there's no divergence, but look out for corrections. For now, the uptrend is still intact as long as we stay about 25.45. And above this rising trend line here, so very strong. But we usually, as you can see, we usually get some corrections, and I wouldn't be surprised to get one fairly soon, maybe at the end of this week, which is today, or early next week. But I think we'll see higher levels on gold in the coming weeks. Silver, a little bit different picture on silver really. It did spike high yesterday, but close below 32.50. However, as we can see here on the weekly chart, there's no divergence on the daily chart, so I think we will push higher, but it's struggling a little bit more. But on the weekly chart, there's still room up to these 34.40, 35.40 on the medium term, meaning in the coming weeks and maybe months. On copper, very interesting. I think we should dig a little bit deeper here. So we had this falling channel here, this falling trend, or declining trend, or bearish trend, or whatever you call it. And we are very close to the 61.8 retracement. Let's zoom out here. The 61.8, it's maybe easier to see on the weekly chart where I have the 61.8 retracement added to that at 471. There's some strong resistance. You can see had the spikes up here around 468, 469. So very strong resistance. I think it will be tested possibly today or early Monday. There's no divergence on the RSI, which is showing positive sentiment. And I then think we will see a setback, a correction, and then we will have another go. Because what is interesting here on the weekly chart is that on the weekly, RSI is very close to break back above 60, but it has never been in a bearish sentiment. It's been in positive sentiment all along. So a weekly close above 471, it paves the road to previous peaks here around 520 and higher. It will give it energy. In a couple of months, maybe next year, higher levels above 525, maybe even 550, and that will be key. But the 471 is key. 470, 471 is key here for the next couple of weeks. WTI crude oil dipped almost down to the 786 retracement and then has bounced a little bit, but the downtrend has resumed. And I think if it takes out the 66.80, well, then we will see WTI towards 64 and towards 61.80, where we have some support. We have talked about this triangle breakout for quite some time now. And Brent crude oil, more or less the same picture, really. We see dip just below the 61.8 retracement, almost down to the 786. A little bit of correction here, where we also see the RSI bouncing from the 40 threshold, but we are in a bearish trend also on the medium term, the weekly chart here, and there is potential down to around 64, 65 level here in coming weeks. Finally, the US 10-year Treasury yield, well, it's almost an ongoing saga at the moment. It's just stepping sideways here between 370 and 380, 82. Can't really make up its mind what it's going to do. You see RSI being rejected at its upper rising trend line. I mean, we are in a corrective phase that could take it up to 385, but really strong resistance at 392. If it's not unlikely we could see it sliding down to test the falling trend line, but if it closes below the falling trend line, then expect downtrend to resume towards 360 to be tested once again. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day and a nice weekend when you get to there. Talk to you again Monday.